CGTN, China Global Television Network.
This past week saw the International Olympics Committee, organizers of the Tokyo 2020 Olympics, and the Japanese government insist that the Summer Games are still on schedule despite the threat of the coronavirus outbreak. On Sports Scene tonight, we look at reactions to the declaration as athletes continue preparing for the sporting carnival set for the 24th of July. Hello and a very warm welcome to Sports Scene here on CGTN. I'm Mahia Mutua in Nairobi. Welcome to the show. Let's check out what else is coming up tonight. Morocco and Nigeria added to Athletics Integrity Unit Category A doping watch list. And South Africa fencer Nomvula Mbata seeks to qualify to the Tokyo 2020 Olympics. Well, we start off in Egypt, a country that depends heavily on combat sports such as judo and fencing for Olympic medals. Japan has apologized to the judo team for not hosting them 2 months ahead of the Tokyo 2020 Olympics, while their fencing counterparts and almost all other athletes are stuck at home following travel restrictions from the country affected by the coronavirus outbreak. Adel Mahroui gets us underway.
When the Egyptian table tennis team was flying to the Qatar Open, the country issued new travel restrictions fearing COVID-19 spread. Egyptians were banned from entry, and the team was given an ultimatum to either go back home or get quarantined. The virus is causing panic in the sports scene, and more turbulences are expected to follow.
We haven't seen the end of it. This is just the beginning. The end of March and April have many qualifications scheduled in judo, badminton and fencing. Many athletes have not qualified yet. All of this will definitely have an effect. And if you ban certain countries and not others, that won't be fair.
Due to its close contact nature, judo is one of the most affected sports. Qualifications to the Olympics are still ongoing, yet events in Asia have been cancelled, as well as the Judo Grand Prix in Morocco and the Arab Championships.
Corona, of course, had an effect. We are in the middle of our preparations for the Tokyo Olympics. Our plan was to have a grand finale, a training camp in Japan, but Japan apologized for turning us down, and other countries as well. It was an important camp, planned to be 2 months long.
Judo is among Egypt's Olympic medal hopeful sports. The entire country is working to resolve all issues the team faces.
We are following up with the Egyptian Olympic Committee and the Sports Ministry almost on a daily basis. It's still not clear if the Olympics will be postponed or not. I personally believe it will be held on time. By the time we reach August, this alarm phase will have passed. In any case, there will be definitely an impact on the technical level of the players from all countries.
COVID-19 has even affected sports with less physical contact, like fencing. While the suits appear to be protective enough, yet it wasn't an exception to the global fear of COVID-19.
Almost all games have close human interactions, even those you'd think not, like volleyball for instance. But even that, teammates interact heavily. I don't think close combat games will get special treatment. The Olympics will either be fully on schedule or not, played or cancelled entirely.
For now, all Egyptian national teams are waiting for instructions, either from their federations or from countries they've been planning to visit before Tokyo. Meanwhile, trainings will resume only at home. Adel Mahroui, CGTN, Cairo.
Well, the Continental Boxing Qualifying Tournament for the Tokyo Olympics in Dakar saw boxers from several countries, including Morocco, Algeria, Uganda, Ghana, Cameroon and Kenya, punch their coveted tickets to the summer event. However, opinion was divided over whether the games should go on as scheduled.
We have to expect this possible postponement. I would have preferred to hold these games in another country. As Japan is affected by this epidemic, we must avoid taking too much risk. Knowing that there's an epidemic there that is killing people is scary for everyone.
If the scientists tell us by then that the epidemic has been brought under control, we will go to Tokyo without any worries. If otherwise the games are postponed, it puts us back to work. We will continue training to be ready to go to the country where it will be held.
I'm ready for the Tokyo Olympics. It's a major event and everyone dreams of going there. By July, we'll still have 5 months to go. There can be a lot of change in the world. We don't know what can happen between now and then. Things can change for the better, and in any case, we will take all the necessary precautions.
While on the other hand, South African athletes preparing for the Tokyo 2020 Games have supported the move to run the Olympics as scheduled, despite the international concern over the COVID-19 outbreak. CS du Plessis brings us more.
Following the IOC president's announcement, many athletes would have breathed a sigh of relief that their Olympic preparations would remain on track for the sporting showpiece in July. And although the virus remains a serious threat, the South African Sports Confederation and Olympic Committee will forge ahead with their plans while monitoring the situation.
We as SASCOC act in a professional and responsible manner. We rely on the World Health Organization's bulletins as well as the IPC and the IOC's bulletins. Those organizations at international level will guide us, and we will follow their guidelines.
I personally think we should go full force, but with open eyes, and really just make sure that we don't become blindsided by the event. We have to take precautions, so I seriously don't think it's a panic at this moment in time, but we definitely have to be very closely monitoring the situation, making use of the information that the WHO gladly gives us and disposes us, and we have to make sure that we keep with those rules, and then I'm sure we'll be safe.
SASCOC has called for all athletes to follow the same precautions they normally would when travelling, but urged them to continue putting in the hard work in the build-up to the event in Tokyo. And that is exactly what the 2016 Olympians Clarence Munyai and Wenda Nel intend to do until things drastically change.
I want to say it's disrupting, but we do think about it and we talk about it with my coach, because the best thing we can do right now, because we can train and wait until they give a final call if the Olympics is going to happen or not. Because if we stop now and then they find a cure, then it's just going to mess up the whole process, because you stop training and then you're not going to be ready.
For me, I'm just focusing on what I'm doing from day to day, enjoying my journey. I don't want to put too much focus on what the coronavirus will affect around the Olympic Games. So for now, unless they state otherwise, in my mind it still goes on as planned, so that's how my planning will go.
Athletes face a number of challenges on and off the track. Stress around travel, injuries and the pressure to perform at a global showpiece like the Olympics takes its toll. So the last thing they need is to worry about a virus like COVID-19. For now though, although the coronavirus is a serious threat to their health, it remains business as usual, with all their focus on doing their country proud at the Games in Tokyo. CS du Plessis, CGTN, Pretoria.
Well, earlier this week, organizers of the Tokyo 2020 Olympics, the Japanese government and the International Olympics Committee announced that the postponement of the Summer Games was not an option despite the adverse effects of the coronavirus outbreak on sporting activities worldwide. On Friday, organizers confirmed all venues built for this year's Olympics have been completed on time, with works on the Aquatic Center finished in February. The center, which will host swimming and diving events at Tokyo 2020, was one of 8 new venues built for the Summer Games, in addition to the Athletes' Village. The National Stadium, which will form the centerpiece of the Games and host the opening ceremony on July the 24th, was completed ahead of schedule in November last year. A total of 43 venues, including 25 existing facilities and 10 temporary venues, will also be used at the Tokyo Games.
I can tell you that today in the meeting of the executive board, neither the word cancellation nor the word postponement was even mentioned. Of course, we are a responsible organization. This is why we have this joint task force, which is having regular meetings. and there we are addressing there any issues which may arise, but we are not speculating on any kind of future developments.
The government will closely cooperate with the IOC, Olympic Committee, and the Tokyo office to continue preparations to host the Games. The Cabinet Secretariat and the Tokyo 2020 Olympics and Paralympics Organizing Committee have been taking part in the task force meeting to explain about the government's measures for the new coronavirus, as requested by the IOC and the Olympic Committee. We will continue to actively take part in the task force to offer new information and measures by the government.
Right now, for more on concerns about the coronavirus outbreak and how it applies to the Summer Olympic Games in Tokyo, I'm now joined by Manfred Seidler, an Olympics analyst and commentator who joins us live now from Johannesburg, South Africa. Manfred, thank you for joining us. I suppose the place to begin is by asking, are there reasonable grounds right now to run the Tokyo 2020 Olympics on schedule despite global concerns over the coronavirus outbreak?
Well, if you were to host Olympics now, that would be grossly irresponsible because of what's happening, excuse me, in the Northern Hemisphere. The Southern Hemisphere has been very quiet on that front. They say it's because it's like a flu, which means it happens in winter. And of course, the Northern Hemisphere is in winter right now, and the Southern Hemisphere not so much. But so if you were to host Olympics now, that would be beyond grossly irresponsible. But we are 5-6 months away, and a lot can happen. You just simply don't know. So the simple answer is the IOC and the Japanese Olympic Organizing Committee saying, as it stands, we're going ahead. You can't do anything else. You can't turn around and say, now we're going to cancel. Because as Clarence Munya said, next thing you know, there's a cure or the virus burns itself out. And Japan has then spent all these billions of dollars in getting Tokyo ready, and nothing happens. So it's a tough one, but as it stands right now, if you host Olympics now, it's a bad move. What happens in 6 months? I guess we can only wait and see, really.
And what would it mean to potentially postpone or cancel the Olympics in terms of looking at global sport?
Well, I can't see you postponing the Olympics because the knock-on effect is just unbelievable, because every single sporting code has their season. And I mean, if you just take a look at athletics, the athletic season comes to an end in September. So if you now go and postpone the Olympics to October, November, it becomes an unbelievably long season for the athletes. And everything changes and injuries happen. They won't be able to compete, or will they be able to compete in the European season, which is the lucrative one? That's the one where they all race to get into shape. There are just so many questions. Same with swimming. It's just not feasible. It's either a case, in my opinion, it's either a case of the games happen or they actually don't happen, which of course would be historical. I mean, the only time the Olympic Games haven't happened was because of the First and Second World War. Otherwise, without fail, the Olympic Games have gone ahead. We had a scare in 2016 with the Zika virus. The Games still went ahead in Rio. But COVID-19 is something that the world is just not prepared for and actually doesn't know how to deal with right now.
And finally, briefly, Manfred, what measures should be taken to mitigate against the threat of the coronavirus for such a big event as the Olympics?
Well, I think the preventative measures are already taking place. There's restrictions in terms of travel. A lot of sporting teams, as you mentioned in your news bulletin, have to stay at home. A lot of events have already been cancelled. I mean, Barcelona Marathon is postponed until October, the World Half Marathon Champs until October, Paris Marathon until October, Rome Marathon has been cancelled, Serie A is being played behind closed doors. That's really all that you can do right now, and I think that governments and people and the World Health Organization are doing just that. But I think to turn around and say now that we're postponing the Olympics now, I think is premature. Things can change, things do change, and hopefully the virus will burn itself out or run its course before the Olympic Games happen. But in terms of training and preparation, it's very, very hard for the athletes just not knowing what to do, and they have to prepare as if the games are happening.
All right, Manfred, thank you very much for your insights, joining us live here on Sports Scene. Manfred Seidler speaking to us live there from Johannesburg, South Africa. Well, it's time for us to take a quick break here. Here's what's coming up. Morocco and Nigeria added to the Athletics Integrity Unit Category A doping watch list.
How would you create your legend? On the fields, on the tracks, in the arenas of Africa. Were you born to be a player? Could this moment be yours? Sports Scene. Find your game.
Welcome back. Now, in athletics, Morocco and Nigeria are the latest African countries added to the Athletics Integrity Unit Category A status following the evaluation of 2019 doping reports from member federations. Distance running powerhouses Kenya and Ethiopia are the other African nations in the Category A list for 2020, released earlier in the week, along with Bahrain, Belarus and Ukraine. According to the Athletics Anti-Doping Body Chair, David Howman, the 5 countries listed in Category A last year showed a marked improvement over 2019 in several areas, but need to maintain that good work and close scrutiny needs to continue for the time being before any changes in the status of these federations is made. The AIU noted the doping threat in Morocco remains acute and considers that more needs to be done to address the threat where applicable, with the support of the relevant authorities and the Royal Moroccan Athletics Federation. Now, 3 Kenyan athletes have been cited for anti-doping rule violations in the first 2 months of this year as the East African nation continues to remain on the global Category A watch list. The local anti-doping agency, meanwhile, insists they are on course to weed out cheats from the sport. Sadiq Shaban now reports.
The doping menace in Kenyan athletics has now reached a crisis level. Over 40 athletes have either been sanctioned or investigated for the anti-doping rule violations over the last 1.5 years, leading to questions as to whether Kenya is losing the fight against doping. I've been speaking to the CEO of the Kenya Anti-Doping Agency, and I started by asking him whether this country is losing the fight against doping.
A definite no. Kenya is not losing the fight against doping. We are on track to prevent the cases of doping which we've seen in the past. We are on track in our efforts also to clean up sports in Kenya. We are on track in fulfilling the mandate of educating our athletes to know the details about the doping problem which faces them.
As you know, EPO is a serious violation. Is this concerning? Because for some people, EPO is now becoming synonymous with Kenyan athletes as a designer, so to speak, drug of choice in terms of anti-doping rule violation.
Majority of them are marathoners. Majority of the others are middle and long distance runners, 3,000 kilometers, 5,000, the steeplechase events. All these require endurance, and that is why EPO becomes more or less synonymous with the prohibited substance use in this country.
When you were speaking to these athletes during this sensitization seminar about, anti-doping and everything about fighting this menace, what did you learn from the athletes that has been the biggest impediment, this year in terms of fighting this menace?
The realization is coming up now that there is much, much more that the athletes did not know previously. But now they are being given an opportunity. They are learning from their own peers, because we've had occasion to use even those who have reformed, who have maybe fallen by the wayside but gotten an opportunity to come back. And they are telling one simple message, that please don't go that direction of doping. And then again, given the situation where even the numbers of those who are turning positive, the ADRV cases that we have, is also another way of the the athletes telling each other that you can try, but you'll not be able to escape.
What are we looking at in terms of what 2020 holds for this country and for Anti-Doping Agency of Kenya in trying to reduce these numbers and the frequency with which now the Athletics Integrity Unit announces anti-doping rule violations involving Kenyan athletes?
We'll do the necessary out-of-competition tests. We'll do the necessary in-competition tests, and we'll have a clean team presented to Tokyo. This is something which we cannot do alone as Anti-Doping Agency of Kenya, ADAC. We need to work closely with the federation so that even as they select their teams, the teams are available, or the members of the teams are available to be taken through the testing regime and also the education. The team going to Tokyo would rather have to be a clean team, because anything short of that will not be tolerated by ourselves, by the international federations preparing the teams, and I believe also by the IOC, which will be the lead agency in charge of the competitions in Tokyo.
Let's head to South Africa now. The country last sent a fencing team to the Olympics during the Beijing 2008 Games. Soweto resident Nomvula Mbata is one of the country's top fencers, and she believes it is her destiny to make the team to Tokyo 2020. CS Du Plessis has more.
You have to be patient all the time. I can think faster. Fencing is not just only a physical sport, it's also a mental sport. It helps you to think. For saber, for example, saber you have to think fast. When the refs say alley, you have to have your defend, your attack already on point.
Nomvula Mbata, South Africa's top-ranked women's saber fencer, and only started fencing 7 years ago, where she quickly took up the saber and carved her way into top spot. Despite facing numerous challenges, now she is ready for any opponent.
First time I did attend my competition, it wasn't that bad because I was new. I even cried, oh, these people are tall and all that. But now I know what I'm expecting there. They don't know me, I know them because I watch their videos. So I'm ready for everything.
The 22-year-old is currently studying to become a fencing coach so she can supplement her training costs in the future. But her main focus is on getting ready for the African Championships and reaching the Olympics.
For now, I'm training hard. I also have a competition in February, the nationals. So there I have to beat everyone, train. Before Cairo, I have to be on point. Everything physically, mentally, I have to be okay.
Nomvula Mbata's Olympic quest may have had a few bumps along the way, but she has one last chance to qualify for the showpiece in Tokyo. That's in Cairo in April, where she has a massive opportunity to prove she's one of the best saber fencers on the continent and that she belongs on the Olympic stage. CS Du Plessis, CGTN, Johannesburg.
Now, Egypt just witnessed the start of the Olympic qualifying modern pentathlon season. Cairo hosted the World Cup, one of the highest gatherings of athletes in the world, and produced a surprising victory in the women's competition this year. A first-time medalist from Britain rose to the top of the podium, while the men's competition was highlighted by a strong comeback from former world champion Adam Marosi of Hungary. Here is Adel Mahroui with more.
For years, Cairo has been a fixed host to one of modern pentathlon's World Cup events. This year, Egypt inaugurates the biggest season yet. More than 450 athletes from 40 countries have joined to chase an Olympic ticket.
We are starting the season in Egypt, in Cairo, in a place where we have a kind of heritage already for our movement, and so therefore I'm quite happy to be here. And this World Cup is for us very important. It is a counting as well for the qualification for the Olympic Games in Tokyo 2020.
The International Union of Modern Pentathlon says this year the World Cup has seen the largest participation of women in history, a great indication of the sport's global growth. In Cairo, a World Cup medal debutant has won gold this year, surprising all participating nations.
I can't quite believe it. It hasn't sunk in yet, but it's such a special day for me. My first ever World Cup medal. I was really pleased with my fencing, something I've been struggling with for the last few years. So it was my best fence at a World Cup, so I was really pleased with that. And my ride was going really well until the double, and my stirrup snapped. So I rode the rest of the course with one stirrup, and I honestly thought I was going to come off. I don't know how I managed to stay on with just one foot.
In the men's competition, an old world champion finds himself back to the lead. The Hungarian Adam Marusi's brilliant performance in laser run has given him a 25 seconds lead. It kept him ahead despite his downsides in other disciplines.
I'm so happy because my last victory was in 2014 in catch commit. I had many podiums, but the winning is different. It's much more harder than a normal podium. After the fencing, I was so happy because in the semi-final I fenced very, very bad, and I want to prepare my fencing to the final, and it was successful.
This is merely the first step for World Cup 1 medalists to reach Tokyo. More points will be needed in the upcoming World Cup and international events for athletes to collect enough points for a ticket to the Olympics. Adel Mahroui, CGTN, Cairo.
And that's all for Sports Scene this week. Remember, you can send your feedback to the contacts on your screen now and give us a follow on our digital media platforms. Once again, thanks for watching. I'm Mahia Mutua. We end this edition with images from Japan, where organizers of the Tokyo Olympics pushed on with the test event for sports climbing on Friday, even as a raft of matches and tournaments were cancelled or postponed worldwide due to concerns over the coronavirus outbreak.
Heat number 1. まずファーストラン第1です。Heat 1 started. Lane 1, Nagasaki Miki in front at the moment. He's got a command of this one. Getting very fast indeed. Falling behind Mikuro Sora, but Nagasaki Miki, and he's got 6. B from behind, the Swiss, Nishiwaki Chinatsu. This is going to be close. Chinatsu, the Swiss.